While fuel price cuts came into effect earlier this week and motorists will get some reprieve, the advocacy group People Against Petroleum Price Increase has cautioned against early celebration. Now, the drop was due to the strength of the rand against the US dollar and also more stable oil prices. National Convenor Visvin Reddy says that South Africa's fuel prices remain one of the highest in Africa, and the latest drop will have no significant impact on the economy or benefit the poor. Now, he joins us now via Zoom to have a discussion about these views. Visvin, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Sakina, and thank you very much for having me on your program.
So we thought it's a bit of good news, some respite from all the other inflationary factors and the bad news surrounding us, that we're at least seeing a drop in the fuel price. But you were saying that South Africans shouldn't celebrate the petrol price cut. Why not?
Absolutely. The thing is that these drops in fuel prices have got nothing to do with the government. In fact, we're still paying the highest in fuel prices in Africa, in the continent. And this is largely due to the fact that the bulk of what we pay at the pumps goes to government taxes and levies. Over 50% of what you pay goes to government taxes and levies. Let's understand how this works. The basic fuel price is what is affected by international factors like the rand-dollar exchange as well as the price of crude oil. So we've experienced this before, where we've had sudden drops and then in a month or two later, it shoots up again. This is completely unacceptable. Our taxes is what is controlled by government. So the recent drop in fuel price has absolutely nothing to do with the government or their interventions. It has everything to do with international factors. Now, what we're saying is that the government needs to review the pricing of fuel in South Africa. Do you know that we are paying 30% towards what is called the government tax fuel levy? Now, this tax does not go to repairing roads, as many people think. It actually goes to the fiscus. Whenever the government wants to deal with its deficits, it goes to imposing taxes on fuel. It's an easy form of taxation, and this is what the government is doing. So at the moment, we are overtaxed in respect of fuel in South Africa. And unless the government deals with this decisively and remove some of these taxes. For example, the road accident fund takes about 20% of what you pay for petrol. And we all know the road accident fund is in a complete mess and a complete shambles. So this fund has to be removed completely, and alternative models needs to be found to fund accident victims, the insurance for accident victims. And this has to serve as a warning to the government, the South African government. Look around you. Look at what's happening in Kazakhstan. Look at what's happening in Malawi, in countries like in London. In Kazakhstan, the entire government was forced to resign over its handling of the fuel prices. And the same in Malawi. Residents of Malawi are now standing up and protesting. We did this in South Africa a few years ago, and if the government does not take us seriously, does not put the citizens of this country first, they are going to be faced with wide-scale protests, and I can assure you the country will be brought to a standstill, like what is happening in Kazakhstan at the moment. In London, citizens are saying, the government is not working in their interests, and they are also taking to the streets and protesting. So we believe that the government needs to be held accountable, and that fuel prices needs to drop, especially with regards to the taxation of fuel. The general fuel levy, we believe, should be capped at a maximum of 15%. It's unacceptable that we're currently paying 30% towards the general fuel levy. And the road accident fund must be completely eliminated. That will reduce our fuel significantly and will be cause for celebration, Sakina, but
Visvin,
not at the moment.
What is your suggestion as an alternative to the road accident fund that you say should be scrapped, especially given the high number of road accidents and fatalities on South African roads?
The way to handle this is to find an alternative source of funding. As people against petroleum price increases puppy, we have advocated the view that the government needs to impose a 3% wealth tax on the top 1% of our country's population. That will bring in an additional 160 billion rand into the fiscus, which can be used as the alternative funding model rather than taxing fuel. I must explain, Sakina, that the fuel prices affects all South Africans, not only motorists, even people who do not have their own cars, because the cost of transport, the cost of food, the cost of living, inflation, all of this is affected by the price of fuel. We are in a crisis at the moment in respect of our fuel prices. With the current drop on Wednesday night of 70 or so, odd cents, we are still paying around 18 rands a litre. And for a motorist who's traveling, filling a full tank of petrol, it's going to cost him just under 1,000 rand in a 50-litre tank. And of that, 50% is going to taxes, government taxes. So you're going to hear just now that the Minister of Finance is going to present his budget. And I hope he's not going to once again increase taxation on fuels, because that is going to add to the crisis that we faced in fuel in this country.
So, speaking to bread and butter issues, Visvin, and just explaining how, for example, the fuel price cut from yesterday affects food and transport costs, or was it the day before yesterday? So explain to us how it impacts the economy when we see some of these drops or increases in the fuel price.
There'll be no impact at all. You will not find the cost of transport coming down. You won't find food prices coming down, for the simple reason that the decrease is not due to taxation. Next month or the month after next, it can just increase by double that amount, because we don't know. It's so unstable. The rand dollar exchange rate, the cost of crude oil is extremely unstable at the moment. So you don't know what can happen. Those factors are out of our control. So if you're looking at transport companies, for example, they're not going to drop the price of their of the cost of transport because of this 70 cents decrease. That's what we'd like to see happening. The only time is for government to cap the taxation on fuel and to say that fuel taxes will not exceed a certain percentage of the price of fuel. When that happens, and it has happened in India, India has done it. Now remember, in all the countries where you've seen government acting and putting these caps and so on fuel prices, it's come about as a result of pressure that has been put by the people. Now we should not be reaching that stage. We are giving the government a warning. We are warning the government in advance that this is something they need to address as a matter of urgency, give it priority, and put it high up on the agenda of Parliament. We actually call on all political parties to start agitating and getting government to start putting this high up on the agenda of Parliament, or you're going to be faced with wide-scale protests in the country, which is something we do not want.
Just a final point that I want to pass you on. You also say that every time Parliament bails out a failed, or government bails out a failed state-owned enterprise, be it SAA, Eskom, Denel, or any other, we are paying for this through fuel. Please explain that to us.
Right. The general fuel levy, which makes up 30% of the taxation of fuel, goes into the state fiscus. 2 years ago or a year ago, when there was a budget deficit of 262 billion rand, the finance minister increased fuel taxation. to recover that money. So this is why motorists and those of us that pay at for petrol, we are paying for a government that is not managing its finances effectively. That is the reality. So every time you see state-owned entities like what's happening in the Zondo Commission, the outcomes of the Zondo Commission right now, where billions of rands have been siphoned off by corrupt politicians and state officials, you must know that we as citizens, as motorists in this country, we pay for that form of corruption through our fuel prices.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us. The views of Visvin Reddy, national convener of PAPI there, giving us his view. Visvin Reddy, I apologize, with his views there.